Not quite, but speak.
Tell the people, how much people over here? 90 people. Tell the people why Rockefeller left Jamaica within 5 months of coming to invest in money when time Edward Seaga got his second term in a 1984 to 1985.
You know the only
You want to say it?
you know the only financial breakdown in the 80s was what? Was
Answer the question.
spring break. What I call it, spring break, the farming something like that.
Answer the question.
No other company leave Jamaica apart from Spring Plain.
Answer the question.
Why did Rockefeller left
I
Jamaica?
I don't know. 'Cause I am recall Rockefeller. Who is he? But I have to go back me vocab to find out.
I'm American billionaire. American billionaire.
Well, on the bridge, and this is the reason why we have to talk about the 1980s because oral know them. Oral
But caution.
Where I say?
You know, saying in the 80s when we used to plan, the dollar was like $2 to 1.
How much that?
Eh?
What? Repeat yourself.
But
Don't watch that.
80s there, when weed used to plant in Jamaica, when Seaga and the CIA then kill out weed out of Jamaica.
And match them Coptic people them.
Yeah, you know, sir, from there so the money start jumping like the on spring.
No, Virgin.
No,
the money stick wings in the 70s.
See, and the all can come in the box, you know, we'll take out somebody if you are coming.
The dollar in the 70s moved to $3.50 Jamaican to $1 US. Try remember that.
$3.50 to $1 in the 70s?
Yes, in the 70s.
You're 100% sure about that?
Yeah.
But why move?
Why?
Move?
Because Jamaica was declining rapidly.
Why?
When Michael Malley come to office 1972, listen, let me tell you why. When Michael Malley come to office 1970,
this is what I like with the bridge. I'm telling you, that's why I like when I have certain people in the box and I alone do my thing. Me I talk about 1980 to 1989.
Yeah, but this man asked me, say, why the dollar move? I mean, I try to explain.
No, listen, I don't really want to know about that. I don't hear.
But a while ago, when we talk about the 80s.
All right, so we could talk about the 80s. This is my topic for the day. The 80s have a lot to speak about. That is what me want to talk about. This is
Caution, why you keep on mute, Mike? No, there's a discussion with the app.
Tell me about something.
You only want to hear PMP? But you're going to learn if you go hear one side of the book.
Listen, brethren. Listen, brethren. Me I talk about the 80s. The 80s. That try to stream a conversation.
Remember, we start to tell about the 80s and the brethren them interject and they want to rebut and then go back to the 70s.
I am not finished.
You never say anything to them.
Big man, that's why I start the conversation because I realize now go back there. So I'm telling you clearly at the 90s, 80s me I talk about. What are another fear understand? Everybody will come in at the box at the 80s me I talk about.
Yeah.
Say if you don't talk nothing about the 80s, don't talk.
Anyway, I'm going to run let you know, because it make no sense because you can't restrict a conversation.
Big up yourself. You see people.
If you're going somewhere, you have to know where you're coming from before you can reach where you're going.
All right, go on where you go, Brethren. Why is it that the labor at them don't want to talk about the 80s? We have all heard the history about the 60s.
Caution, the 80s is a pro time.
All right, come on from a program now and see if we go somewhere. Go on now. I argue with my father. I tell you the 80s me want to talk about. What's wrong with that? If you don't want to hear about the 80s, go on. But today, topic will be 1980s.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you know what going on in the 80s. I ask you the question, and you know me are going on. When I ask him about Rockefeller coming for the 5 months and going, you notice him say he don't know nothing what going on in the
Caution.
Listen, Rowan, well on in the bridge because you didn't answer my question neither. I come on to the 80s.
Answer your question because I go treat myself a while ago.
So why Rockefeller left Jamaica in the 80s? Why?
Because the agreement when man put on the table, I say I never agree with it.
What was the agreement? What was the agreement?
I soon get back to you.
You see what I try to show you? Lies and propaganda. Imagine, remember, you know, Siaga move with policy to a reliance policy, meaning that Siaga move with Jamaica policy to rely upon itself, to rely upon private sector. You understand what I say? So before, in a Michael Manley time, Jamaica rely upon itself, self-reliance. When Siaga come in change the reliance to private sector. So most of the things then where the government state that own, divest. Siaga was the man who come in with the thing where them call them divesting committee. As Siaga first start divest Jamaica, Siaga divest Jamaica and make about 500 million US dollars. After I'm done divest out certain things out of Jamaica. The sugar industry start to crash in the 80s because some sabotage in the start. You understand? But guess what now? People now, them not gonna come tell about the 80s. You notice Labour right now really want to talk about the 80s. Why they don't want to talk about the 80s? Remember in the 80s when gas moved from $1 or a couple cents go way up to $6 per litre. Nobody now talk about that. That is more than 600% increase in the gasoline prices underneath Edward Philip George Siaga. And from your have I am gas raise, you know, so everything in the country got raised. Did you know that in the 80s, even the truck driver them, the everybody, they end up start striking in 1985 due to the condition our Jamaica did that going on? Yeah? The whole island strike, road a block. Nobody now talk about that. You remember them something?
I remember that.
Right now I'm talking about them something. That's why my topic today is the 80s. Anybody who come in the box, if you not speak, you can tell me the experience about the 80s. I don't want to hear nothing about the 90s.
Spread propaganda, you know.
I don't know want to hear about the 80s.
And prove it's your propaganda now come with the facts.
Yeah. 80s don't want to hear about. 80s. So we want to understand what really going on in the 80s. Because you see the 80s is a missing part of the puzzle, you know. It's a missing part of the puzzle because yesterday, I stay so boom, I'm go read. I make sure go read what happened in the 80s and trust me, Jamaican people, and we even understand what Edward Siaga did to Jamaica in the 80s. Did you know that during the 80s, Edward Siaga signed some whole heap of deal with the IMF and borrowed some whole heap of money from the World Bank along with IMF? It's the most money Jamaica ever received from even America, between America, IMF and World Bank was in the 80s. The most. And
exactly.
The thing where we don't even have nothing for sure. We don't have nothing for sure.
Nothing at all.
Nothing we not for sure with all of them billions of US there with Edward Siaga collecting in the 80s. Nobody don't want to talk about it. Edward Siaga got rich after all of these things, and it's the same module. I'm not going to talk about the 2000, but the same module, the same person that I use to the day to get rich. Relying on private sectors. Them divesting out. Siaga created a divestment committee. I'm going to check it out. As Siaga first start sell with things them in Jamaica. Siaga first. But the labor right them now come talk them something there.
No, not all. Them not all them there. Them not
Come
all.
talk them something there.
Yeah, he was the king of divestment. He was the one start selling.
You see, in 1984 to 1988, them say Siaga wheel out the tax acts. Anybody in the 80s remember the terminology there, the tax acts? The man start chop tax all about the place everywhere. Tax a job. You don't remember?
Yeah, man, I do that.
So when we are talking about the 80s, we are trying to remind people what going on. Because you know, funny enough, you know, we talk about the 90s whole heap of time. We talk about the 90s so much that we can actually live the 90s. Why we can't go back and live the 80s? You know what the funniest thing about this thing? Jamaica Labour Party is the only party where ever sit in a parliament without an opposition for 6 years.
In the house. It wasn't 60. It was 60.
50, 60, because in the 90s it go up to 63.
Right. It was a full 60.
Full 60. And that full 60 selected the Senate. You understand what I say? So PMP had nothing.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. And Michael Manley stand by his words. Sam would never.
So I said, this is my thing now. If Edward Seaga had the country for himself and himself only, and he's the best finance minister, what growth did Jamaica get between 1983 to 1989? Wanna tell me?
He didn't have any growth because he ended up even borrowing money when he never pay back. He never remember about that.
I can tell you, him himself get growth. Remember, when Edward Seaga come to Jamaica in the 1950s, Edward Seaga was not a billionaire, He was not a millionaire or billionaire man with money, When you check his biography, when Edward Seaga got rich? 1980. Check. Edward Seaga, along with the JLP people, Horace Chang, Mike Henry, all of them people.
You art. An ex-brother named You Art.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of them get rich in the 1980s.
80. Right. Yeah, that's true. Yep. The man gets rich.
You know, I understand with the labor right man them still. Like when I reason with the man them are load up and they can't reason with the man them.
You see today, it's a no nonsense deal with nobody at all. Understand? If I put up nobody in the box, and I want to cheat disrespect, I don't want no form of disrespect, no way at all. If you have a reason about something.
Caution, tell me why the property was Eddie Seaga divest in the 80s.
You want one of the property?
Yeah.
Barclays Bank. You remember Barclays Bank?
Huh?
Remember Barclays Bank?
That's not a property. Barclays Bank is not a property.
The Barclays Bank,
Barclays Bank leave Jamaica in the 80s, but that nothing to do with Seaga.
No. Barclays Bank.
You say Eddie Seaga divest. Is the thing of divestment. Just tell me one thing about Seaga divest in the 80s.
Oral. Barclays Bank was divested and the name changed to NCB.
Yeah.
You never know that.
Brother, we are talking about property.
Brethren, a bank is considered a property, brethren. Barclays Bank was divested by the Jamaica Labour Party. As a matter of fact, what you need to do, because you did live them time there. Why you not come tell me the properties them were divested in them time there?
Caution, you say it, you say Eddie Seaga divest Jamaica, West Coast Jamaica property.
Mr. Cole, where is Mr. Cole?
Barclays Bank is a financial institution, not.
All right.
Alright, you got Mr. Industry Art. Do you have a program in Camp Cape here in St. Mary's? We train young people to do tailoring. Do you know of that program?
What program?
Camp Cape here was built by the Cuban to train young ladies and young men to do dressmaking and tailoring. Do you know of Tabla Youth Camp?
Tabla, yeah.
Do you know of Girls
I heard of it.
All of those programs was closed down by Edward Seaga and the German Arthur mechanic was started by Norman Manley into the 60s.
It never closed by Edward Seaga. What happened is when Edward Seaga come to office, he asked the Cubans to leave Jamaica within 24 hours.
Well, I know, brother. What happened?
Second background can get close.
All of them was closed down. Rename art. Art is nothing.
Art is a brand new program, brother. Art is a brand new program with a brand new concept.
All right. Now ask you that question. Jamaica Housing is a new program.
Mr. Paul, you know, say, me did play myself, say, me don't know chatting with you because you're very disrespectful.
All right.
And I did me up on a program, you start calling me all kind of names, shit house and all kind of stuff. I mean, never ever disrespect you one time yet.
Yeah, alright, but you not talk about that, you know.
Yeah, but me not think I want to talk to him because I talk to people like me not no morals neither.
You can't say we don't want to talk to you. Come for anybody you can talk to.
Man, me a Jamaican and me have choice, brother. What you talk about?
Alright.
Decide who wants in my system, man.
Exactly what I'm doing.
Come for the platform then.
No, it is in a man. So all right now. So the blah 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 this now. We don't have some mills in a Jamaica, oral. Wrong, am I right?
Have someone?
Mills.
Yeah.
We are them never closed down in the 80s.
Hey, you know, caution, big man thing. Big man thing, caution. Yesterday, argument we attack. You know,
listen, Brethren. You see how you get sensitive when I ask him.
Let me answer to you. Let's look back to you.
Me done. We are talking about the 80s.
Hear me answer, General. Hear me answer. Listen, me answer, G.
All right, so you're not going to
This what we are talking about now.
Listen, big man, I don't want here. And if you open up your mind,
I them think your Andrew owners come for fix. I them think your Andrew owners are fix. But now, hear this.
Look more. Man, watch this now. Listen to what I have to say now. In the 80s, 3 mills were seven state-owned mills, not 3, sorry, 4 extra. 7 state-owned mills were forced to close. The closing of these mills has meant the loss of 11,800 workers. 11,800 workers. This are in the 1980s, you know, between 82 to 83, you know. Oral. On so damn lie. And him know, you know, because I see when I draw the point on him now. You see what him do? He might try to deflect the conversation now and I say, that Andrew come for fix. So that means him literally confess that labor right mash up Jamaica in the 80s. Because the 80s we are talking about. Remember, you know, when you demonize PJ Patterson for the 90s. When you say this and that and you talk about everything what PJ Patterson do. Now we are talking about what Seaga do in the 80s. Who no want here? Why no want here? Is it that it's so horrible that you not even want to actually even remember the devastation when you go through in the 90s? But me go remind you no. So you see if you go mad you know, or cause some kind of post-trauma stress disorder, you not go get it. We're not going to get it from caution because let me tell you this. You see the upcoming week, at the 80s me I talk about. Me don't want to hear nothing more than the 80s. For now, the 80s.
I have one more.
80 to 1989. We over here, so caution, I got dig down and remove all skeletons in the 80s. And if nobody can come talk about the 80s, me don't want to hear.
I have one.
Yeah, man, I can go ahead.
I have one more. Yeah. He's a big contributor. Why we have so much water problem now? Because the Cubans were here building a lot of micro dams. They mash it up when them win 1980 and say build by them, we mash it down and we can build back, and them never build back now. And those micro dam was gonna be very effective with water. Needed now.
May I talk, please caution, that Edward Seaga put out free education and said it's not good for the country. Edward Seaga mash up the only Olympic swimming pool in the English-speaking Caribbean up by GCT. Edward Tiaga could not pay 1987 when the ship came to Montego Bay for the oil. That's evidential fact. I've never disrespected this young man that tell lie on me. Oral.
It's not
Edward
it's not
Tiaga.
Leave that alone, Mr. Cole. Leave that alone.
Yes. Edward Tiaga
Question.
must rename the program and call it art. PJNR art to art NTH. We
That's
can
a
be
fact.
certified. That's what happened.
That's a fact.
Let me put something in perspective, Comrade Cole. But before me say that, the first thing me I go say, I went to Kabla Youth Center between 1979 and 1980. It was known as a youth skill training center at that time.
Where you live and learn a trade. You live there.
Yes.
You live there and learn a trade.
Yes, I live there. I live there.
Yes.
I was a prefect, a round leader, a team leader. You understand? That's where I learned my first set of discipline coming from both the scout and the cadet in the 1970s. But Carson mentioned something earlier on, and I just want to shed some light on it. Mr. Tiaga fired 1/3 of the public sector during the 1980s. And when the warders went on strike, he said on spot, never to return back to them job.
Can I say something on that? He also fired 208 Air Jamaica worker that time, including you small wife was in it and a brother of mine. So he can't tell me nothing about that. So me don't know about that.
Be glad to some light on the period of the 1980. Well, on the circle, Kashan mentioned something again about borrowing from the International Monetary Fund.
And World Bank.
And the World Bank and the IDB. In the first 4 years of Mr. Tiaga taking power, the debt was increased by 100% in 4 years.
In 4 years, yeah.
They can put that in fight and smoke it.
Not only that too, that he sent home all the nurse aid when you saw acting at the community, test pressure, the vaccine to children, and 5 hospitals, and 98% of the health clinic was closed down underneath Edward Tiago and Dr. Kenneth Barr as health minister.
Yes, sir. Those blue uniform people and pink.
Gosh,
And during that said period of time, 5 hospitals were closed. To include the one in my parish of South Trelawney, the Ulster Spring Hospital.
Yeah. Alta Spring, Chapelton. I remember that. Something in Portland, St. Thomas or Portland.
Yeah, man, St. Thomas, Portland, Trelawney, St. Thomas, Portland, St. Anne, what's name it, the 5 parish, right?
More than 5, because more than 5 hospitals they closed.
Hospital, 5 hospital, but 98% of the health clinic was closed down also. 5 major hospitals. Isaac Barron in St. Thomas. In Portland, where you sit down and I go fix the road there, that was closed down. St. Anne's Bay, Trelawney, right? That is where comedy player talk about.
Mr. Cole,
Mr. Cole,
never closed down the history of Jamaica. Don't say that, man. That's false news.
Well, this man has that.
All right, well, and before I'm going
That
further.
never closed down.
Well, and
Never.
before I'm going further, I'm gonna end the live 6 o'clock because I think when me and I go live 6 o'clock. When me and I Price, human Price, I'm want in there for go for the
Yes, sir.
answer session and them things. So I'm not going to interfere with that and I go for the to give me strength. But continue. But at 6 o'clock, so I say everybody were there. Over there, so we are going there. 6 o'clock.
What the link for that? What the link for that?
Yeah? I remember.
Alexander, brother.
What the link? What the link?
Share the live to me when I reach over there, yeah?
Yeah, it depends on my page, you know. It depends on page, but I'm going to share it up. But I'm just
All right, baby, yeah.
1985, 5 major hospitals did close in Jamaica by Dr. Kenneth Barr, Edward Siaga, Maran in St. Thomas, Buck Bay in Plan, Alexander in St. Anne, Hunter Spring in Killarney, and I forgot this one. But 5 hospitals,
I think it's Chapperton. Chapperton closed down. Chapperton.
Capital. 5 major hospitals. Go be a research, no, brother. And that's why when I talk and I get ignorant, I say, I do not like lies. I name them.
It's not been the ignorant.
No, but I name them and I name the 5 hospitals that was closed 1985. I name them.
Yeah, but you don't need to get
And the
ignorant.
Paris,
Yeah, you need to get ignorant. Just
right?
calm down.
I name them.
Just chill a little bit. Rowan, what you have to say?
Me have to say, it's the bad angle in the 70s of Michael Manley come over. Because those 5 hospitals got closed down.
Not talking about the 70s.
So Rowan, did Edward Siaga speak about an economic miracle and a turnaround in 1982? Rowan?
You mute, Carson, you mute.
Yes, because we are listening to because in country with dollars. And
Yes.
I'm the one that liberate the dollars and him said no.
And there was positive growth. There was positive growth in our country, right? 1982, right?
Wasn't a better rose, you know. It was
Listen, Rowan, when I asked you that, but just ask you, it was positive growing in a 1982, right? Right?
I mean, we were just picking up the chips and farming them.
Rowan, I never asked you that. Did we have positive growth in
I
1982?
said, I'm answer you. We was just picking up the chips and farming back to
that virgin is either
nobody's reached the levels yet.
all right. So from 1980 to 1982, Jamaica had recovered, right? The words of Edward Siaga. He said we had an economic miracle and an economic turnaround. And when Hugh Shearer went to Parliament, yeah, he stated all of this in a budget speech and presented numbers about Jamaica growing to so much percent and whatsoever. The question when me want to ask Rowan now, what happened 1983? You can't tell me about the 70s, no, because Edward Siaga clearly told the Jamaican people that we had recovered from the 70s. So what happened 1983?
What happened in 1983 with Rockefeller? What happened in 1983 with Rockefeller is because he want Mr. Siaga to make a deal to liberate liberalize the Jamaican dollars that against the US dollars. And
All
Mr.
right.
Siaga said no.
First and foremost, Siaga did that before Rockefeller come here. Rockefeller come here in 1985. All of that happened 1983 to 1984.
It never
As a matter
happened.
of
It was only mentioned by the US.
Yes, Rowan. The liberalization of the dollar happened. Rowan, the liberalization of our dollar went under meet Edward Siaga and also to open up a foreign investors.
I mentioned different from
Listen,
action.
Rowan, you talk and me a listen, Bridging. But when me talk, Bridging. So the liberalization of the dollar happened between from 1980 to 1983. Remember, Edward Siaga came in with a policy between 1980 and 1983 of reliance on the private sectors. Remember that. And foreign investors. That was what his reliance was. He moved from a self-reliance, wherein Michael Maldas a self-reliance, and then income and say rely upon private sectors and something there. So changing the policy actually means that you are going to work with the private sector, liberalizing the dollar and actually open Jamaica interest rate market and all them kind of thing. But I want to find out, Rowan, why you never tell the Jamaican people that it was Edward Siaga that removed the control of the interest rate from the Bank of Jamaica?
You see, it is, yeah, I have to go back because I want to be precise. But at the same time, you guys keep on talking, say we now go back to the 90s, we now go back to the 90s, we now go back to the 90s. So why keep going back to the...
Ron, respectfully, I ask you a simple question. Why you never tell we that Edward Siaga removed the policy, remove it from the Bank of Jamaica?
I have no knowledge of what you say. I'll get knowledge
You
of it.
know knowledge of that. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Blair, want somebody who have a little knowledge can talk a little bit funny and have a little understanding of what we are trying to say.
That's unknown knowledge, you know, or emphasize.
It is unknown knowledge. What do you mean if you got
It is there. It is there, Rowan. How you think me?
here?
How you think me, you know? Last night, we read all of this, you know? Last night, we read all of this.
Liberalize everything.
I want you to tell you that. Mr.
Listen,
Siaga,
Rowan, me don't want me could talk about it.
The United States dollar. That's the first thing you come up with.
Yes, that is true.
So all of the money where them borrow from the IMF, him use it to keep down the dollar. Because when they liberalize the dollar should have gone up. And all the money, instead of the money was spent in the economy, the money was spent to keep down the dollar. Understand?
Siaga never liberalized the dollars, you know. Michael Mann liberalized the dollars in 1989 when he came in.
Man, they liberalize the economy, which is totally different from the dollar.
The dollars are the economy. That's what Siaga have the biggest argument about, you know.
Run. In a 19, when Siaga get the country, what was the rate to the dollar? What was the rate to the US dollar? 1980.
It's about $1.10 to a dollar.
No.
25 cents to a dollar.
I don't understand that. $1 what?
About $1.25 Jamaican for one US dollar at the time.
No.
$1.25. All right. So you said $1.25 for so in the 90s, in the 80s, it never go up to $5.
It was an agreement with Barbados, Jamaica.
Listen, Rowan. You see that women not understand it only, you know. When time we are talking about one thing, we don't want to chuck over our next yard.
Chuck over the yard, you know. We're going to talk to people, you know, and Ken was want to talk in one ear. You don't want to come out.
You have to tell me, didn't the dollar go up to $5 in the 80s? About 83, 84, somewhere up there, so. You never go up to about $5?
5 to 1 on the maintain until 1989.
Then that's how I ask you. I never say no. Just ask you. So now, When we go suburb now, and we
One in
analyze.
1990, in a 1 week, it dollars run from 5 to 1 to $30 to 1. Boost was up to 20 million US dollar. The stabilize dollars $36 to 1.
1980, run 1980. I think me hear enough about 1990. We'll talk about the 1980s. Please stay within the bracket.
When it gets to the 90s, brother.
No, Rowan. I want to understand if I'm unfair. From the on TikTok and internet and I talk politics. The only thing that your people talk about is the 18 years. Nobody talk about the 9 years before the 18 years. And respectfully, today, I would like to emphasize and exercise and expand and expound 1980 to 1989. If I can't do that, I am very sorry.
I mean, if you do that, if you do that, you're going to open my can of run up and pay.
I open a can of worms, spreadsheet. We are opening up the 1980s, the forbidden time at Jamaica. That we are opening up right now. Because we all know, we all talk about the 70s, we all talk about the 60s, we all talk about the 90s. We need to talk about Portia time, but nobody wants to talk about Edward Seaga time. Why? We now hide something, and we are going to unveil it today.
It was so much of a perfect time that, nobody ever find a bad fault about it.
All right, so we're going back now to the 1980s. That was a little small information. So look now. So with the 1980s, yeah, being so, one of the things that we really not understand between the 1980s is this now. Yeah. This is how I mean I understand now. Gas prices in 1985 went up to over 500%. What caused that? It left from about $1, less than $1, go up to about $6 or $7 per liter. Anybody remember that?
Yep.
But caution, the gas price was going down around the world, but going up in Jamaica.
In Jamaica.
And that's why you have the 1985 gas riot that I have to walk from Kingston to Spanish Town. The gas price was going down around the world.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cole. One gas riot in the 80s to do.
Yes.
In 85, there was a gas riot where gas was going down. When gas was going down around the world by even 30, 40, and 50% around the world, including in South Africa, the apartheid government, Nigeria, and around the world. But gas keep moving every day by $3 and $5 a liter, a gallon them time. But we use the word liter today. Evidential fact, and that's when Michael Manley mobilized the people of Jamaica and go and demonstrate. And after that, Michael Manley said, I will never, Michael Manley made that commitment 1985, the 30th of October, that he will never ask the Jamaican people to block the road again. That's why I, as a comrade, said, anything in demonstration and not take part in it again.
Yeah, Miss read that, because I will if a roadblock did that go on and them kind of something.
That's not only roadblock, I will if I
massive destruction.
Yeah, read that.
Yeah.
For true. Me see that for
So
true.
let them talk about the 80s.
That's why Michael Manley say we never take anybody to the road again for demonstration, because it's just the chaos him trying to bring down upon the administration at the time. To bring down the administration, the administration fight so hard.
Did 1993? Did 1993?
No, Mr. Cole.
Now go the Sayed Code. Now go the Sayed Code. I want to put something else on the table for Rowan. Rowan, have you heard of a word named NAFTA? You know about NAFTA? North Atlantic Free Trade Organization.
What
meaning free trade. Caution said to you a while ago that the economy and the dollar was being liberalized under Mr. Siaga in the 1980. And you dismiss it. You don't know which year NAFTA was signed and what was the agreement. I remember the captain of
Said
the
it never liberalized under Sierra government. It
Free
was only
Organization.
mentioned. And that's why the investors them coming have to go back up because them that come for the dollars to liberalize. And the Sierra said no, that's why the businessman, the Rockefeller, the world them have problem.
Oh, no, that's rubbish. That's rubbish.
Rubbish.
Rubbish. Because in signing NAFTA agreement.
Yeah, but well on,
Good afternoon, people.
Yeah, good afternoon, excellent.
Yeah,
Let me ask something to you,
Caution. Was it Rockefeller who bring free zone to Jamaica? Ron, open up your mic there, please, and
I learned that.
That wasn't one of the 48 investment Rockefeller America that are bring come to Jamaica.
I learned that Rockefeller was going to invest in health and education.
Caution.
I learned that Rockefeller was going to invest in health and education.
Caution. Your argument too big for the man. Me tell you, me in the comment section, I beg you to stop beat the man, Caution. Caution, you are referring from a Harvard resource material. Caution, stop beating him so hard, Caution. A long time I beg for the man, Caution. Me I beg for him long time, Caution. I beat him too hard, man.
Administrate my own affair, brother. I can deal by one, administrate my own affair. Don't beg
No,
me.
man, Rowan, you must know when I get beat, man.
Rowan, man, if you take correction, you don't know
Man, I
what
beat
thing.
you hard,
I
man.
my own
man.
affair, brother.
You don't answer one question.
Caution,
One question.
never said to you, brother.
When
Me
NAFTA
give you a
was
level of
signed,
respect, brother, because me know the document I read from. And it's
When
a
NAFTA
powerful
was signed,
document.
When me read from that, so I can sign.
Rowan, listen.
I know you're not answering not the correct, Rowan. I know you're not answering not the sensible, so you read from it and you're not answer what the man asks you.
Don't know
When
sense
that-
of a conversation,
when
so
that-
keep out of this.
Well,
You don't know sense of a conversation.
Hey,
Keep up.
caution,
This is far,
caution. Come lick out your teeth with
Hold
one
on,
thing I said.
excellent.
You are manage not the man. Me not read nothing now, them you're not fine. You don't know nothing where you're at.
Me forget back on the program, you know, come done. Yo, I hammer Edward Siaga, you know.
Boy, caution, you broke them, you broke them.
Nah, ease up.
I like that, you know, because you let out that in a room.
All right.
You let out that in a room.
You Blair, where I say now, you Blair?
Yeah. When NAFTA was signed, that is the period of time when the 48 investment company should have come to Jamaica.
Yes.
But the American government fell out of favor with Mr. Siaga. Because they said, based on the amount of money and the amount of help they gave to Edward Siaga, Jamaica should have developed further. And they labeled him at that time as the greatest conman of the Caribbean.
Big talk that in a Rowan.
Let him answer that. Let him debunk that.
Okay. Let me tell you the man name too. Reagan.
Hold on. Where you say, well, come down the something, well, come left go on the outside. Where you say?
It's too lie.
Where you say, well, go, maybe you know?
Tell him about Mr. Blair.
You're the year, man. I'm glad in the year.
Where you say, when you call Siaga, the Caribbean talk now, man?
Hold on. When the NAFTA agreement, the free trade agreement was signed, it was signed to help Jamaica so that American companies could operate in Jamaica and operate freely.
Yes.
And the first person to come here was David Rockefeller.
Take away all the money out of the country.
Hold on, man.
Take away all the money out of the country.
You can't learn. You
never talk truth, no, brother. You're not big man, you don't know what's going on. You know, come and come spend a little false narrative like you take someone and eat that around
Hey, you Blair, can I say something to him?
Right.
I want to tell this brother. So in Jamaica, manufacturing grew in Jamaica by 3.6% on average. And then 1980, Siaga mashed it up. Construction was growing in Jamaica Siaga mash it up. When I just say you, Blair, Siaga was the biggest deception in the Caribbean. That's the reason why Jamaica started to fall apart.
Tell him what
But-
happened to a backside, and I need the
But-
80s.
But caution is more advanced because the same document may read. So caution is more advanced because caution complete the reading. I have a few pages to go.
He hand back the backside.
Something to know. Because you mentioned about building and construction. The Cape Town housing scheme, Greenwich Acre housing scheme, started in 1974, and it's when Siaga come 1980, something he finish up. So, I don't know what PMP that do.
No. For the whole 9 years, where JP the inner power for a 1,100. 1,100. You see when PMP that Mike and Mali the inner power 17,000 house bill. Siaga never built a house. Virgin, Ruan, Siaga never built a house. As a matter of fact, let me tell you next thing. Big man, let me tell you next thing what Siaga do in the 80s. When he take power, the man change up NHT from a mortgage only because in the 70s, NHT actually build house and mortgage it, and Siaga take off the bill part and only mortgage house. And that is where now you have the private real estate developers now start to sabotage the low income earners in Jamaica. And let me tell you next thing what Edward Siaga do now. In the 70s, when they do go for apply for one loan, they used to have a thing what them call random selection system, where the system randomly select you because in the 70s, I'm not going to tell a lie, but them have one system where select you automatically. Not on your grade or your work or your salary or your position. When Siaga come in and change it to one system called the PIE or the PEI system. This is a system where it selects your based off of your salary, your location, and how much points you have. So what Siaga did at that time was turn NHT into a classism agency that only the people at the top will always get houses from NHT.
Exactly. And certain people could get house.
We know Siaga history, man. We gotta deal with it, man. Run, man. We gotta deal with it, man. I tell you, for the whole week, brother, everything about Siaga, me gotta talk.
Him get help in our back. Caution. He get help in our back.
Yeah, I see Mario there, but I don't know if Mario can manage them conversation.
But caution, you must tell him that. When Edward Siaga won in 1981, his first act of office was to declare Ambassador Estrada persona non grata out of Jamaica.
And escort him.
The biggest mistake they have made as a government, because so many students were in Cuba studying medicine, dentistry, construction, nursing, every aspect fields. And for the reign of that JLP government, he told them to come home. Some of them stayed. Many of them stayed and decided to keep on studying. And they have contributed so much to Jamaica today. Some of them came back home and he buried that program for 10 years. Which is a program which was developed to help poor Jamaicans get a proper tertiary education. And since the PMP caution has implemented by that program when taking office in 1989, I can tell you hundreds of Jamaican doctors have graduated from that program. Hundreds of nurses. We have engineers and everybody. Because in 2000, one of the last act of Portia in office in 2006, she ushered off 147 students.
Listen
You want the caution?
It is.
No, man, no, I'm just
is.
saying to you the benefit of the program with Sierra Kill.
Me no want step an inch a line out. of
No,
my
man, no,
conversation.
I'm not saying to your caution,
Nah,
right?
invite no. Listen, brethren.
Yeah.
Nah, invite nothing out of the 80s.
All right, so
No.
today, out of that program, we have
Like, I'm not
Dr.
going. Like,
Mr.
Yeah,
Cole, Dr. Cole,
no. Well, I know before me forget what I gotta say. Jesus Christ, man. Hey, we are going hard just for a while, you know. But
Sorry,
there's-
my brother, sorry, my brother.
there's
We get
something
excited
important.
like your both time when we
Question
get knowledge,
is-
you know.
The question is, why did Edward Siaga took away the power from the local government and put that power to the Ministry of Local Government? That is the question.
Because he lost the election, he lost the local government election. And because
Not
he
only lost the local government election, he lost it by a landslide.
landslide. So
Yes.
because of that,
11 seats, 11
Yes.
municipal to 2.
the two.
Them only got Clarendon and St. Thomas.
Yes. And
And when
because
him, when him see him lose, him change the policy of the local government and reduce them power and put the power underneath his office.
so he could have power. Yeah.
You want nothing more to realize that this man is an evil man?
But caution. Many Jamaicans were anticipating, you know, after the man started showing true colors in 1981, 82, you know. Many Jamaicans were preparing to slap him where the polls in 84, 85, you know.
Yeah.
So, and because people were considered to be the time of redemption of Jamaica because of the hardship they were facing. So, when do? He just tried to trick the country. Because he was going around begging. He was going around begging of second term in from 83, he started beg a second term, you know. He started to beg the term and the people them now show him. The people them now show him the love we must get. So he say, guess what? We can't get it by will, I take it by force. Rape mentality used for the Jamaican people.
He used the invasion of Grenada in 1983 when they killed Morris Bishop.
Yes, to see you.
Jamaica sent soldiers to there. So he was friends with Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher at that time. And he used the occasion to call the snap election in 1983.
You, Blair, I had the honor of sitting down beside that gentleman about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I was from Venezuela, who was telling me about that 1983 invasion of Grenada because he was down there.
Before you go,
The man hated Edward Siaga like poison.
before you continue, I see a comrade in the box. So O'Keefe.
I can jump up, man. I can't jump
I
down.
love here O'Keefe in the.
Me can't jump out. Caution, just put me out of come in.
Never jump out, Caution. Never jump out.
Yeah, make O'Keefe. Come up, O'Keefe. Walking encyclopedia. That's the man with the Dallas Vegas last night. Total demolition last night.
And Vegas, something yesterday.
Yes, man. O'Keefe saw that.
Yeah, man. Respect, comrades, respect.
Yeah.
Nah, man. Yes, man. With them, you know, them not have facts, you know. So because we may knock them from the 70s, come to the 80s to PG, right to Sister P, you know, them can't take reality, you know. So it's a set of corruption, them man.
Wait a minute, take you out for the program.
No, man, me and him run it about 2 hours, man, but him not have no facts. He must show up to for foolishness on data show say this is that, but when me knock him, because the first thing we touch was security. Right? And me draw upon him, make him know, say, yeah, well, Andrew Holness is the crime boss in Jamaica, because Andrew Holness' crime for 9 years is 12,700, and PJ Patterson crime for 14 years, 13,000 is 13,000. 13,000 may not have a figure, but 13,000 something, right?
700.
Right, 700. So I tell him, say, we could do some calculation, mathematics now and average it out and find out why. The man them stand. I idiot them man. Idiot them. First thing I say, what is Andrew's initiative that he gave to the commissioner of police to fight crime? Him and Sleepy Joe. What two of them come up with? Because they try so fail. You try the SOE try to take away the rights of the citizens of Jamaica. It failed. So what is his strategy that we're going to jump up with no bundle figure to come tell we about crime cut by 35% when they're not reporting some of the crimes? And that's his strategy, you know. That's his strategy, you know.
Yeah. But watch out, I know 80s with that still, you know.
All right, Caution. Yeah, man. All right. Yeah, me talk about Siaga. You know, say, when it come on to health, a Siaga mash up health in Jamaica.
Yeah, tell them why.
Because when Siaga came in, health was free totally in Jamaica. Siaga bring back payment, the payment, we call it cashiering in health in the 80s, right? Siaga locked down Chapelton Hospital 1985 and Alexander Hospital Center 92 hospitals. Siaga closed down and turned them into community hospital. Do you remember the community?
He also closed down Isaac Barrett in St. Thomas.
Okay, well, we never move that.
Alta Spring in Chilani and Buff Bay.
Because in the 1980s, St. Thomas had two major hospitals: Isaac Barrett in the east, and it had Princess Margaret out in Morant Bay. But
Yes.
Edward Siaga closed down Isaac Barrett.
Yes.
I called it well to community something. One little bean is something. Up to today, that can't be revived after Fenton spent.
Just like Chapter
millions.
Hospital. Can't revive. And remember, in the 70s, Michael Manley bringing the community health aid program that to assist people, because you remember that our health system was very poor coming out of Colonial. So Manley bringing the health system. Siaga lay off almost 60% of the community health aids in 1980. Siaga sent home all of the Cuban doctors who were here helping with Jamaica health system. And me hear somebody earlier on when him sent home the Cuban ambassador Estrada and all who were studying medicine, engineering, and all of these things. They had to come back to Jamaica. The man hamper. They say, hey, that man is a national disaster to Jamaica. Remember the Pioneer Corps program?
Yes.
Michael Mann, they build a lot.
A whole heap of dam answer.
And vocational institution and all of these things.
Yes.
And Siaga came. And Siaga locked down the vocational institution, them in lockdown Cablina, in Manchester. I hope turn it in a police academy. In lockdown Jamaica School of Agriculture.
Out at Twickenham Park. Yes.
Okay.
Hold on, wait there. No one they fly past.
Yeah, man, that's true.
School out at Twickenham Park?
Yes,
Yeah, man.
Jamaica School of Agriculture. The man locked it down and
And he
put
brought it to case. It had to go to case in Portland, which is a much smaller compound.
Yeah, but case never finished, because the Cuban never not build that,
But I'm just saying, he removed the Jamaica School of Agriculture, which was a massive compound. And anybody would know it. I'm bringing a very small land,
I sent it to Pastor Garden in Portland.
which is about half the size of it.
Yeah.
Remember Mount Pelier, have you heard about Mount Pelier? You heard about Mount Pelier, don't
Yeah,
you?
man. Where Cuban never not build.
Mount Pelier was a school that the Cubans were building to add to the schools. And Siaga closed. Siaga did not hope Mount Pelier. Siaga turned Mount Pelier
In a soldier camp.
A soldier camp. GC Foster was sabotaged. The Cuban built GC Foster into an Olympic. It's an Olympic institution. Everything in here. The gym is Olympic. The pool, the diving pool, the swimming pool, the field, everything at GC Foster. And GC Foster never complete. And Siaga made GC Foster run down that The Cuban, when he wrote the Cuban them out because they didn't bring the pumps that's supposed to hit it for the pool. So Siaga run them out of the country. So the college just stall, and he never attached it to the Ministry of Education. GC Foster was attached to the Ministry of Youth and Community under his government. Oh, wicked Siaga is.
I'm telling you my next thing.
You mentioned the microdam. When the microdam were being built, I was employed by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forest Department, and that program was sponsored by the government of South Korea under a program them called ICA, IICA. I distinctly remember that because the office where I used to work was one of the outlets for building most of the microdam in South Carolina.
Hey,
and the fund was from South Korea.
You, Blair, let's share a piece of information here. Research showing me that the price index for food in 1981 increased by 4.7% and then by 8.4% in 1982 or 1981. And as Caution said, gasoline in the 70s, in the 1983, jumped from $6 to $9 per gallon, or what it was, $1.85 US to $2.74 US. Transportation costs went up by as low as 17 to 54%. And the cost of milk went up by 40 cents, you know. And then tell the 40 cents are enough money in Jamaica. Because if you look at it, the average Jamaican, over 48% of the Jamaican workforce in 1982 when Siaga was Prime Minister was earning 40 Jamaican dollars per week, or $13 US. And if you earn $13 US per week, and the cost of milk went up by 40 cents, you know it's enough money that gone outside. That's how wicked the basic needs of life of the Jamaicans were stifled.
But excellent.
By Edward Siaga.
You know, talk about US for them a brag for now and keep US dollar for $5.50.
No,
you find out what was the price of US dollar. The price of US dollar with Michael Manley. I him carry to $5.50. It was $1 something under Michael Manley when Michael lost, you know.
But we're going to show you something else. We're going to show you something else. We're going to show you something else. Agriculture and food production went down by 19.2%. The first half of 1982, and there was a 45% increase in food importation. That means we stop basically feed the country. We produce less things and I import by 45% more. That's JS was having problems.
You remember Lowland Coffee? You remember Lowland Coffee? I Siaga mash up Lowland Coffee, you know. Siaga, remember in Jamaica, you know, in a Clarendon and place, you know, people used to plant a lot of coffee, you know.
Yes.
Right? We had a coffee factory in Chowtal, Clarendon, when I was a boy, you know. And by 1985 or 86, that the coffee factory they mashed down, you know.
Yep.
We had a cocoa factory. We had a cocoa factory in Morgan's Pass, Clarendon. By 1987, 88, Siaga mashed up the cocoa factory.
And don't talk about the orange up in them here that too. We're good on.
I spoke about it last night. That orange was our major.
Total.
Clarendon people found where we live off in Clarendon.
Yep.
Clarendon have the most orange today. Not even one orange in a Clarendon. I tell the and say, look here, you have to go replant the citrus in Jamaica. Or Macanela alone of orange.
All right.
Hey, but look here now.
Okay.
In a 1 year, Edward Siaga almost double. It says by the end of 1982, the total external debt increased from 1.4 billion US to 2.3 billion. So in a 1 year, the man almost carried total external debt by $1 billion. This meant that each Jamaican owes $1,000 as is our whole share of debt. Foreign debt now consumes 28% of all export earnings. Net foreign reserve stood at a minimum US 700 million in 1982, compared with 574 million in 1981, a minus US of 481 million in 1980. Show you Siago dangerous.
Thank you.
Look at the
Thank you.
banana industry. Look at the banana industry. You know that is Edward Siaga destroyed the banana industry.
Yep.
And the coconut
And the
industry.
coconut, Quebec one whole heap of helicopter come spray coconut, but them a bun ganja, but no ganja in the 80s.
I'm burning ganja and mash up the
Hey,
Mash up
you
the
there?
ganja when Siaga have Reagan kill out the ganjas them in Jamaica, you know.
You Blair, you
California
the piece,
have nearly 400 acres, you know, a ganja, you know.
you the piece of you Blair. You the piece of me, I drop it and me have to go run. You the piece of. As a result of the 481.1 million minus, negative in the national coffers, as a result, the national coffers are dry despite the massive infusion of overseas loans and the fact that the government borrows up to US $1.5 million per day.
wow.
Fourth, a total import in 1980 were US 1.7 billion, while export were US 1.4 billion.
And that is why the American drop him and say me the con man of the
Caribbean con man. That's what they call him, you know. He failed. Iman Adisha failed the most IMF tests, you know. When I tell you that he used to pass the IMF test in the 80s, you know, a live PJ participant have to come out and tell us a blasted lie, you know, pass none. He's telling lie to the country.
Exactly.
You understand?
That's why them don't speak on the part.
But that's why, yeah, because when you talk about FinSac, you know, Tiaga and him crew contribute to the failure of the financial system in the early 90s. Because when he was Prime Minister, Tiaga borrowed 30 million United States dollars from Central National Bank.
Hey,
when they
you know the boy that only in caution and one deadly boy, you Blair.
Yeah, man.
And what they only rough up the thing, me realize that boy in caution and one deadly boy.
Man, caution is the one we're doing research, man.
Hear this, man? The Jamaica sugar industry is now headed for bankruptcy as 7 state-owned mills have been forced to close. The closing of these mills has meant that the loss of 11,800 jobs. According to the National Sugar Company, the sugar industry lost over 300 million, along with 50 million additional loss resulting from drop in production. Drug and medication supply in the hospitals and health center, water, flour shortage, critical electrical output, inefficient bus transportation service. These conditions were compounded by the laying off of workers at the Kingston transshipment port at Bustamante, Port Bustamante, and the Kingston Wharf, and the Western Terminal, the laying off of workers by Reynolds Jamaica Mines, and the surplus of employees at the National Sugar Group companies. Labor right can talk. They can talk. How much thousands of jobs them Jamaica lose? The 1982.
That's why they're afraid of we, you know. That's why they're afraid of we.
Yes, so that them I say when the truth
In
reach
1982, there was a shortage of medical supplies in the country.
But remember in the 1982, 82 go up to about 84. Rice was short for nearly about 4 years in Jamaica. Who remember when no rice in the state government when no rice, nobody not no rice to eat. But on Sunday we have to eat sweet potato and dumpling and cassava because no rice in our country.
I catch
You
the
Blair.
marriage. I catch the marriage.
You Blair, in the
I
80s,
catch
the
marriage.
most strikes in Jamaica.
Yeah, of course.
The most
The biggest-
industrial
the
strikes.
The biggest all-island strike took place in Jamaica in the 80s. And as a
Yeah.
result of that, Mr. Siaga dismissed 1/3 of the public sector workers.
They were the island wide sick out by the nurses and the psychiatric aid. Separate undergo production slowing down.
Ian Irons.
Man,
1985.
Caution, me go back and read to the 1980s thing, yeah?
Yeah, man, 1985 teachers strike for 1 week straight. 1985, that I mean a first farm.
Me
Teachers
backside.
strike for 1 week straight, and Siaga said not under in dead body. That I Noel Monteith was the president for the Jamaica Teachers Association. You understand?
Say, I'm gonna lock it down tight.
Oh, he said not under in dead body.
Hey, man, say no, man. In
And when the war-
1986, the education system had reached a cancerous state, you know, that
Yes.
Alfred Sangster principle of caste.
Because I Siaga carrying back school fee.
Qualified staff who left the private sector, or left for the private sector, or worse, still to specially create a quasi government agency. The man then couldn't exist. That's why I call election and rob Jamaica for term. Wicked labor right them.
Yeah, because remember, you know, him catch Manley off guard, you know, because Manley, he catch Manley off guard because remember the country was saying that the country is hard and entire time. So Siaga went to parliament, but the parliament in call election 1983, you know. December 1983 in a parliament, like what the one in call election was in a parliament, you know. And in a parliament, in dissolved parliament, you know. And Manley said, no, he not contesting election at that whole voters left.
Era in 1982.
Manley wasn't in the island, you know.
No, he was abroad. He was abroad doing some
Era Blair.
at the university.
Era Blair, the man them saying in 1982, you know, the government cut the education budget by 50%, you know, brother. You know what?
You see that 18%, which the last 2024 produced, that is where all of those started from. That same cutting of the education budget and the opening of the student loan and the car sharing, that is where the backwardness of the education system started.
Definitely. Even when you bring in Art Trust 1986, when you leave art, you know, say I got been in art, you know, and I'm not say, you know, you get the little on-demand certificate because I went to high school and I waste my time. I end up at Ebony Park Art Academy. And when I check out the qualification, I say, when I leave this institution, what type of job me I get? Me get to find out, so me I go end up on a farm, to go milk cow, and be handyman per farm. I was doing some holiday job with a vet, and the vet said to me, say, you know what, try see if you can get into Elim, because the park is foolishness. When we check out Elim, when you graduate from Elim certificate can give you a pre-trained teaching job in agriculture at a school run by the Ministry of Education. Elim certificate bring your hand to COA, where Siaga move to Portland, College of Agriculture. Art certificate, nothing. So them back, so me telling them, I say, me not criticize art, but art, Siaga build art for yard boyism. And in the 90s, PJ Patterson upgrade art and develop art.
Michael Manley started NHT in
76.
1976 and 19. In 381 housing units. And between 1980 and 1982, Edward Seaga only started 1,100 and then stopped.
Yeah, never complete. But what I say, two prominent jail picker. You have Olympic, Mario has been very silent, you know. I don't know why I'm so silent. I probably don't know about the issue still. I'm see Oral come up back in the box. I guess so,
Caution, can I get my space?
Yeah, man.
Long time.
One question for ask all them PMPs, Kalaya. Because on a team up and talk one bad things and most Jamaican knows one was propaganda. Since Eddie Seaga was so awful. No, you better know since Eddie Seaga was so awful. You better know, may I speak in a brother? Since Eddie Seaga was so awful, why did the PMP and Michael Manley never contest the election 1983?
Because him come with a fraud election list.
What fraud about the election? The man call election like every election comes in Jamaica. Michael Manley don't contest the election because he knows if he contest he going to lose.
And the same thing I reach Andrew now. Why Andrew not?
Listen. Yo. Just one at a time now. Please, man, I beg you.
You are answered. Let me answer him, okay, and then you can come up.
Yeah.
There is a word where we call principle. Michael Manley did not contest the election because he had an agreement with Edward Seaga that they will not call any other general election on the old voters list.
Brother, excuse that. Excuse that, brother.
With all due respect, I clear the way for make a talk. Make the man respond now. Yeah.
Edward Seaga eventually called 1983 election on the same old voters list which was used for the 1980 general election. And on a matter of principle, Michael Manley said we will not contest it because he gave it word to the Jamaican people.
For add context to what Mr. Blair just said.
Mr. Blair, if Michael Manley did say, yeah, me say no, but me just tell Mr. Blair and then you speak.
The reason why them the one the voters this to clean up is because even my great friend Rowan and Carl Lewis voted when they were 14-year-old in the 1983 election.
Brother, you love talking again, man. What may they say? Mr. Blair.
Listen, Brethren, and listen, ask them.
Mr. Blair, what I'm saying to you, Mr. Blair. And how Michael Manley did say,
big man. The man them said on the live, brother. The two of them said, then the hide and say.
Of course,
that's why the voters list the one for clean up because a whole heap of people in on the voters list were dead.
Yes, caution, me hear what they say.
All right.
And that is always the voters list. Up to the day, that is always the voters list. Right? I'm saying to you.
So we are trying to tell me, say, a whole heap of dead man named upon the voters list now. So we
still, of course. Still,
the same process.
Look here, caution.
All right, watch on, comrades. And hear what I go on, and hear from Oral, you know. So no look out back for the same kind of thing.
Yeah, make it sound. Like Mark Walden.
Brethren. This is what I say, Brethren. I use so you know, me never know.
Then Mark Walden, sister, Mark Walden, so you must go vote for you dead.
And that the man never said
Mark Walden said dead, you can vote. Say that about me.
You want to Oral? You see it right now, Brethren. I tell myself that today I talk about the 1980s.
Oh, when it suits you.
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
All right, what may I say about the 1980s now, Mr. Blair? Yeah. If Michael Manley is still that him can win the election 1983, list clean up or list not clean up, he would contest. Him know if he contest, he might lose landslide.
All right, Oral. We are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Send it like a lose. What was the result in the 1985 local government election? 86. What was the result?
86.
Yeah, what was the result?
Brother, election swing from time to time. JLP win this time.
No man, the man ask you a question. Answer the brother.
What was the result in the 1985
PMP won the local government election.
by landslide?
All right, what was the ratio? What was the ratio?
Oral.
That's election always win.
Hold on, Merchant. The PMP did not just win the local government election. We won it by a landslide.
Then the JLP not do the same thing to other the JLP one council the PMP did have.
Virgin, stop the bag of Ray and Virgin. 11 municipal to 2. We not get Clarendon and St. Thomas. And PMP take all the other. And as a matter of fact, the nether local government will take Clarendon pound on. We end up with 12. I only left with 1.
And 2016 the JLP win all 12.
Lie.
So what you say?
Lie.
On both sides.
Oral.
Yeah, what kind of
I respectfully ask you to remove that statement.
Yeah, what the man
That
say?
statement is a lie.
2016 Jamaica. Yo, brother, Oral, come on.
They've never won
That's a
Westmoreland.
Please
They've
retract
never
that
won
statement.
Westmoreland yet. From 86, they have never get Westmoreland. The parish
No,
council.
but comrades. This is where I have to be serious. What Oral said a while ago was a material lie. The JLP did not win 12 municipal corporation in 2016. That's a lie. That's a lie. And I ask Oral respectfully to retract that statement.
No man, retract
Because
what?
they won Manchester,
Yeah,
the
but I
PNP
lie,
won
what you
Manchester,
can't
the
tell.
PNP won Hanover, and they won
Brother,
and
the PMP had
Westmoreland.
Westmoreland in the bag in 2016. The PMP had, so first of all, the PMP drew St. Thomas. The PMP won Portmore.
Maybe my mistake. Maybe that is
The
2020.
PMP won Westmoreland. The PMP had Hanover.
Well,
Not
maybe
even
it's not.
2020.
Maybe it's
The
not.
PMP had
Maybe it's
Manchester.
2020. But when the JLP have 12 councils.
Oral. No time in
Oral.
history.
No time in
time
our recent
Hold on,
history
bro.
as the JLP
No
had
time in
12 councils,
history.
PMP won.
No time in our history Jamaica Labour Party ever won our municipal council. A PMP
Oral, that's a material lie.
A PMP alone do that.
But I'm saying to all you PMP scholars, I'm saying to all you PMP scholars who come out and tell
Hold on, Brechin, I could teach about politics. In
what the 70s we come blame the JLP for it in the 80s.
Well, on the Brechin, the people want to know Brechin. A PMP alone do that. All 13 municipal corporations they win by PMP in 1997 and 98. Some up there, so. PMP alone do that, brother. We never do that yet.
I'm going to ask you a question, Caution.
Caution, okay, that is true. We not leave the country. We not leave the country, Caution.
History.
We not leave the country.
1980, please.
That leave the country, the worst country in the Caribbean.
Yeah, 1980. I'm going to ask you a question.
Under who?
Oral.
1980.
The
Yeah.
JLP won the election. The JLP won election 1980. They call a snap election 1983. They won all 60 seats. I'm going to ask you a question now. When the election was constitutionally due 1985, and the stone poll show how much the PNP was leading by 1985. Michael Mann was leading the poll by when the election was
I don't
constitutional.
believe in a polls, so you don't have no polls, brother. I won polls, we won an election day.
But who say we just have propaganda we are
We say
spreading?
I won polls, me know about an election day, so I have no stone poll.
But Carl Stone said at the PNP contest, the 1983 general election, the PNP would have won.
And me as a pollster say the same thing. If the PMP did contest it, they lose landslide. As I'm also a pollster.
Well,
So
listen.
that is my word against Carl Stone word.
Listen. Oral. Me,
Yeah.
listen. We're not even feeling an argument with him. The main thing is that the Jamaica Labour Party ruled Jamaica by themselves 1983 to 1989. What were their accomplishments and why?
You see the end of
1989. Why in 1989 we end up lose by a landslide to the People's National Party? And that's how we need to really answer.
Yeah, answer the question. 45-15. Answer it. They did so well of 60
That
constituencies.
is a mystery. Well, I know you have to answer a question and you still they speak.
Okay, go ahead. Answer it.
That 1989 election result is a mystery. The fact though, 1989 Jamaica growing by 12.5%. The largest percent since 1960s.
Brother, stop them lies upon the platform.
No, sir, what a wicked man.
Stop those lies on the
Brother,
platform.
Caution, you love research, you know. Do you research, you know?
Brother,
Do you research, Caution?
stop
Do you
those lies.
research, you know? Do you research,
Right, brother.
Do you research, Caution, and see if I'm lying?
To do research. All right. World, tell me which part we can go find that information. Because we sit down here so I check everything we are going to know. We want to know which part.
You have more than one place you can check it. You can check it from the Minister of Finance office. You can check it on Google. You have places you can check it. Go and check it.
No, government has grown the economy by 12%.
That never happened in America
That
yet.
never, since
That
independence.
never happened.
In the last part of the 80s, Jamaica was growing by 12.5%.
Where you get that from?
In that time, China they grow by China they grow.
Yo Blair, you know it's real and truly we can't talk them politics with oral, you know, because oral literally not understand. You not even believe what I must say. You can imagine the man with that.
Brother, believe I want wrong thing, man. You can't believe anything you want to believe. Face the facts.
So we can believe anything we want to believe.
You want to believe because I'm not flying on the cell. What
why country?
You know, appeal to PMP audience, so not talk things for no audience feel good.
No, listen up, oral. The country grow by 10%, but why would that reach 200%?
Caution.
Why would that the GDP to go to 200%?
Caution. That is in 1984. Edisiaka Farm Art 1982. It never fund until 1984. When Edisiaka Fund Art 1984, with debt to GDP ratio raised to 212%. By 1989, our GDP is under 100%.
No, that's
Oral.
No.
Oral, come off of the platform with those madness, man.
Oral. Yeah. Oral. The next slide of PMP tell.
Hold on, oral.
Mariam.
Michael
Olympics.
Oral. Remember, in 1988, we had a hurricane devastated Jamaica. Don't forget that, you know.
Thank you very much. There's no way we can ever could end up there and all them kind of something there. We know how the country and
wait, no man, we are going to listen because there are a couple of questions we want to ask.
No, Olympic. There's a question, Olympic.
Yeah, man.
Olympic.
We have a hurricane in 1988 in
No, I can't find out oral no more.
Remember,
hurricane in 1988 September, and by November it's like Jamaica never have a.
No, come on.
Mario, your time now, Mario.
So Olympic.
My question to you.
A question, Olympic. You believe what Oral just said a while ago? That the Jamaican economy go by 12% in 1988?
It actually was growing. It actually was, but you know, let me finish. It was actually growing at 10%. And when the hurricane came, all that went under. The election was called. The 88, we had 88, September 88, September 12, 88, we have the election. By February, we call an election. Based on what was happening with the country. Right or wrong?
Listen up.
Me hear the man, yeah.
Was that the situation?
That the election was called in February?
February, yeah.
And the hurricane was in September, yeah.
Hold on, come like to me. Hold on, let me take control of this spreadsheet. Mario, show the 10% on please and thanks.
Okay.
That's how I want. I don't want nothing there. Show the 10%.
All right. So let me tell you specifically where to go look for it.
Show me that 10% then. Which year so we get it? 10%. 1988?
88, yeah.
Yeah, 88. Yeah, come, Mario, with that 10% there. Please and thanks.
Four to 5%.
Oh,
4 to
oh.
5. No, we
Yeah.
listen up. We still no. Well, I know. We still want to see it. It's sure with a 4 or 5% there.
All right, just Google it. Just Google it.
Google it where?
Just Google simple Jamaica growth rate in 1988. Just Google it. Simple math.
Where I say now you there? Well, I mean, I Google it first before.
Yeah, man, just Google it.
Yeah, that was the projection that in the latter part of 1988, the economy actually grew by 4 to 5%. That was the projection.
Yeah.
Remember, the election was, I think it was February 1989.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And the government still lost the election.
But they must.
Oh, why? Yeah, why?
Because
Lost the election. Hold on, Mario. The JLP did not lose the election as a result of the election.
okay.
I remember the People's National Party won the local government election in 1986.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And Mr. Tiaga carried on the 5 year right down to the wire, like how you see Andrew carried on this 5 year down to the wire.
Like grace. Like grace.
You understand?
Yeah, man.
And he still lost the election.
Yeah.
So don't qualify. Well, I'm Mario, let's the point. Don't qualify the last of the election based on this. Because it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to lose.
Okay. And then again, that's your opinion. And history has shown itself.
No, that's
What
not
it
Mario, I'm still a look for that 4 point.
Just ask Google it, brother. Just ask Google. What was the growth rate in Jamaica in 1989? 88. And it tell you.
I mean, I say that. They're not. Hold on.
Oh, what them tell you?
Hold on. Show me a drive, you know. That 4%, the last. You know,
It said 4%.
Where's some typing? More typing exactly what you say. Where you type in and get that. So tell me.
What was the growth rate in Jamaica in 1988?
What was growth? In 1988.
Yeah.
1988. Okay, so it shows say one annual. Well on there.
4%, that's it.
Yeah,
4%, man. 4%. That 4%.
Yeah, 4%. All right. Okay. Wonderful. All right, Mr. The 4%. Can proceed.
So that's how I tell man that 10%, that 12% was a lie.
No, man, I just chat, man. Him not have data, you know. We don't
And the man literally come on the platform and
say our debt to
GDP went up. The man said the debt to GDP went up to 228% because Edward Thiago fund art.
So Mario.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
In 93, how much Jamaica grow by? How much percentage grow by?
How much Jamaica? You say you stay upon 88, now you're going to 93.
We just want we can confirm that.
9.4% caution. 9.4%.
Yeah, but listen up. Since you are talking about that, and we are use this as a reference. Yes, man, what you are using.
What the data you have? What the data you have?
9.4%. 9.4%.
Okay.
In fact, the biggest growth in our GDP was it was a balance here between PNP and JLP.
1972, 18.7.
I know I'm going to get PNP still because remember election call in December, you know. Election.
February 72 the election call.
No, listen what me I say. When the election call, the parliament dissolved. And the election, where you say call?
The election run in February 1972.
It run in February, but the date when the election call, remember when the Prime Minister launched the election, parliament dissolved, you know. Nothing going on in the country, you know. So January, Labour right never do nothing for Jamaica in January. Nothing at all. When election called, Parliament dissolved.
But give them a little credit to that. We not be biased. We give them a little credit to that.
I'm not give them a little piece, a little fingernail, no toenail, no. A PMP grow the country by 18%.
The Michael man, they make use of the 18%. They may tell you, brother.
Alright. A PMP make Jamaica go the highest in a Jamaica.
I think